Instead of a function to describe production, I'm going to give you this table to describe production. And this table tells you the relationship between the inputs and output. You'll notice here we have two inputs. We could think of barista as labor and the espresso makers, that would be capital. Typically in economics, we're going to assume that labor is variable and capital is fixed. The reason for that is because it's more realistic. So if you're running a coffee shop, you probably have different numbers of people coming in on Tuesday and Saturday, and you might staff different numbers of workers to work Tuesday versus Saturday. But probably you have the same number of espresso machines on Tuesday as you do on Saturday. So in the short run, at least, it seems reasonable to assume that capital is fixed and labor is variable. So we've got our production function, we've got labor and capital and some output. Now what we'd like to do is think a little bit more carefully about the marginal product of labor. Marginal product describes how much output is produced by each additional unit of an input. So as I hire more workers, how many more cappuccinos does each worker produce? I'm going to start here by thinking about the marginal product of the first worker. As I hire the first worker, my output is increasing from 0 to 180. And so the marginal product of the first worker is 180. If I hire the second worker, then my output increases from 180 to 320, which gives me a marginal product of 140. Hiring the second worker increases output by 140 cappuccinos. We're going to just do the same thing here as we move down the table, subtracting our total output from our previous total output to get the marginal product of each worker. The fourth worker increases output from 420 to 480, which is 60 additional cappuccinos. What you'll notice here is that marginal product is decreasing as I hire more workers. That's an assumption that we actually always make in the context of production, called diminishing marginal returns. It means that the more you produce, the more expensive it becomes to produce it. In other words, the more of a variable input that I employ, the less productive that input becomes. Why is that? Well, in the context of our coffee shop, this makes sense. If you only have 2 espresso machines, then eventually those espresso machines will get crowded as you hire more and more workers. This is true actually for any production process. As the variable input increases, fixed inputs become crowded.